because 3 of our HVAC units, 2 of them had cracked heat exchangers, which allowed burned propane to enter the classrooms. And if you've ever been in that kind of an environment, we could not leave the students there. We moved them out. We, in fact, had to develop a protocol. Right after we put that protocol in writing, another unit, the health tech unit, went down on Monday. So those kids were relocated. All of the units except for 1, which we had to replace 3 years ago, are 15, 20, 25 years old. Okay? So the difference being, if we piecemeal this and do just those things that absolutely were required, and that means not touching the asbestos, not touching some other things, that's $15.8 million with no participation from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts whatsoever, because MSBA does not have a major renovation program. They recently had a Green Schools program that was funded through the stimulus money at the federal level. That's no longer available, and we wouldn't qualify for that under these particular repairs. And certainly, I think we'll be ready to answer any questions if there were questions.
Selectman Lamont.
So, John, what you're saying is, if everything were to go well and you got all 10 communities, the town of Oxford would be looking at a $3,318,000 bond. That's what we'd be responsible for. If we don't do anything, we're still going to be responsible for about $1,920,000 of the $15,806,000 that you were talking about. So the difference you're looking for, because Oxford's going to pay something, whether it be, let's call it $2 million. That's close enough for the 1,920,000. $2 million or $3.3 million. We're paying something. The difference of $1,397,351 to be exact is the difference between the two and the cost. With the $3,318,000, and I'm only talking for Oxford, not the whole project, we will get a school that is state-of-the-art, brand new. No different than what we just asked these taxpayers in this town to do recently for the middle school, some work that's going to be there, or the redesigning of the elementary schools, or the building of a new high school, the building of a new police station. The buildings were old. Now, Bay Path is the same age as, or a year younger, I believe, a couple years younger, than the Oxford Middle School, the current middle school. They were built the same time frame. Both of them are good buildings, and I believe that the Oxford Middle School that we currently have is one of the nicer buildings that we do have. It was built back when we built things real heavy duty. But you're right, it needs renovations. It was also built with modern stuff 40 years ago, which isn't modern anymore. Okay, and as you say, you were built for 850 students and you're up to 1110. They want to give you the 1111, huh? That's too bad. The 1110. Okay, so you've got 160 more students in there than what you should. You've borne the costs by our allowing in the other 4 communities. We're sharing the costs, so our cost is less. If this were 10 years ago, our cost would have been a heck of a lot more than $3,318,000 because we would have been sharing with
19% of the cost of this project will be borne by the 4 new towns.
Right,
that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have them.
Right, and they're smaller. I've known of this project coming out for a while. I mean, I was up there in 2002 or 2003 with Randy Sloanway when he was on the School Building Needs Committee before it was shelved. I went to some of the meetings. I know you need this project. I know it's good for Bay Path and good for the students, the 140 some odd students we have up.
146 right now.
146 right now. Not 114, huh? 146.
146.
Okay, the 146 students we have up there. And I know that the number of students that have graduated, hell, I got a kid sitting here who graduated from your school, a brother. It's necessary to do this work. But, there's going to be a lot of work. Our taxpayers aren't stupid. They're willing to be talked to. They want to understand what you're asking them to spend. I mean, we're talking about $39.64 on a house worth $236. For some people, it'll be less. For some people, it's going to be more. You're asking some people to cough up $100 for your school. They're coughing up $150 for the elementary schools. They're coughing up $100 for the police. We've got a lot of things going on. You've got your work cut out for you. Would I support and endorse a project like this? The full Monty, not just the renovations? Sure, I would. And I believe, I've talked with Ben LaMountain. He knows, he's more than expressed the needs of your school. I've talked with some people in the community recently, too. People who, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call cheap. They don't like to spend a nickel. And when I mentioned Bay Path to them, they said it's been a long time. They don't ask for much. I mean, they don't look at the budget and see, the $1 million that we give you a year. $1 million for 143 students, you do the math, you know what it costs. They've said that, they'd support if they were asked. And of course, if you need the support, they'd have to be asked. But I believe in what you need to do. I hear what you're saying. Just, you got your work cut out for you getting it out there to the voter.
I'd like
That's all
to
I have.
address a couple of things that you said. The difference in those figures doesn't include any of the addition, so if you get some renovation done, and that number would probably go up because over time, the cost would escalate because we wouldn't do them all at once. And the other thing about the number of students, Spencer, who just came in recently, used to pay $1 million in tuition fee. And they joined the district, and their assessment was $600,000 with busing. And so I did some quick math this afternoon. If you weren't in the district and you wouldn't be guaranteed seats, your tuition bill for those students would be almost $2 million in 1 year.
Yep.
So it really is a cost savings, and it's a good investment.
Agree. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Selectman Lamarche?
Well, Mr. Papine, you said it earlier. There's never a good time to ask for money, that's for sure. And as a former educator, and you hear a lot of people, at least I hear a lot of people, I should rephrase that, expressing their concerns about the youth of our day and how come our youths aren't as well educated as what they're saying as maybe other countries. And part of the reason is the fact that we really need up-to-date and very efficient facilities. It's been a long time, 40 years. I hear that tax figure, I think of myself, I say, wow, that's a hunk of change to have as a taxpayer. But it's one of those catch-22 situations I think we're looking at that really we have to do this. It's something we have to back. My daughter went to this school. It was great then. It's so great now, and it's one of those situations. If we're going to educate our students properly, if we're going to get them out there for those jobs, if they're going to be pliable candidates to get good jobs, to then become good citizens, and then to also be able to afford to pay the expenses at the towns they live in. We have to do this. We really have to do this. So I see it as a unfortunate situation that we're all going to get involved in, and it's going to be a good thing for the town of Oxford. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Selectman Bose?
Yeah, Dave and John, there's no doubt this building needs to work. I mean, it needed it back in 1982 when I went to school there. I think the first thing I remember about going to school there was the water leaks everywhere. It was a trash barrel everywhere collecting water, and I think at the time the building was only 10 years old. So that brings me to my point I'd like to make here. The people of Oxford have been generous throughout the years. We've renovated a lot of our buildings in town here. We built a new police station. So they understand that there is a need to spend money, but they also are very concerned about it being spent properly. $73 million is a boatload of cash, and I understand that a lot of it is coming from the state, which is fantastic. And this project, it's a value project for the town of Oxford, as far as I'm concerned. And that's in my opinion, $3 million. But what concerns me is the quality of the construction. And I have no doubt that you have good people working on this project. I know sometimes you hear the phrase, we took low bidder. And sometimes people think that means because it's low bidder, we don't have to follow the plans and the specifications and things of that nature. And then what happens is we have an inferior built building. I think we had some problems with the high school that we built here going back, I think it's been almost 10 years now. And, as many of the school committee members know, we've had a lot of problems with that building, and we've spent a lot of money on maintenance. So I just like some assurance that we're really going to be taking a good look at this building as construction progresses. You mentioned that we have bricks falling off the building, and that was a problem. That was a construction problem from day one. That was never done correctly. So, what kind of assurances can you give the people of Oxford that we're going to have a building, a renovation that's going to be done properly, it's going to be punch listed properly, you're not going to take, you're not going to occupy this addition until everything is taken care of. It's been punch listed over and over again, because I don't want the people of Oxford to have to pay, ongoing fixes for the next 10 years because it wasn't done properly. So can you speak to that?
What's changed is this, MSBA. They've been walking us, when we first got into this, under the new regs, they required us to hire owner's project manager before we did anything. And we're saying, well, this is crazy. We're spending all this money. We don't know if we're going to get this project or not. But they've been working with us very, very closely, and with the architects, even to the point where when you vote for the architect, the state has a vote too. Now, we met with them 2 weeks ago. We're meeting with them tomorrow to finalize this budget. And they're taking us through this step by step by step. This owner's project manager is responsible. He's our eyes and ears. And he's been working with us every step of the way right now. Now, we had to put in a dust collection system for the carpentry shop because the other one was so old and so dangerous, we couldn't wait for this project to start. So we started it, and he worked with us to get MSBA to agree that when this project is approved, they will reimburse us for part of that cost. So he's right there. Matter of fact, the company that we hired, Harry International, was called into Worcester Vocational Education when they built their school. And I said, really, you work there? I said, well, were you watching that project? Because all their light stanchions up on that football field, up on the hill in Worcester, all folded over from the wind. So he said, no, we were called in after that happened, because that was SBA then. So now, if something were to happen like that with us, we would go to our project manager and say, what's going on here? You're responsible for that. Did you want to address something?
Yeah, and then two other points. Number one, you mentioned low bid. We're not going low bid on this project. We're using a CM at risk, construction manager at risk. And in fact, in the next several weeks, we'll be beginning the process to bring the construction manager on. Because that way, your construction manager is working with the architect, with the OPM, and averting any types of design flaws that may lead to some of this problem building. In addition, that methodology does allow you to have a little more choice over who the contractors are and who the main contractor is, to avoid companies that have had difficulties and who have built buildings in the public sector that are not up to standard. Secondly, an important point to note, we talk about the fact that the building has a lot of deficient systems that need to be upgraded, and that's a function of age. But if you look at that 63% reimbursement, when we started this project with MSBA, our base reimbursement rate was 59%. And we've received extra points of reimbursement for a number of things. Construction manager at risk gives us a point. We're also going to be designing this building in an energy efficient manner, which gives us extra points. But the one that I'm happiest about is in this system, you can get between 1 and 2 points called for maintenance. Now, in general, most schools will get 1 point. Our architects, our OPM, they've worked on a number of these projects and never seen them go over an extra point. Bay Path is receiving 1.3 points because we have maintained the building to the best of our ability. We can't do anything about the fact that it was built with asbestos. We can't do anything about the fact that the roof is now 25 years old and leaking, although there's probably a few less leaks than when you attended, because our new, relatively new, he's been there 7 years now, building superintendent has gotten up on that roof many, many times and done some of that work. So I want to assure you that Bay Path is working diligently to get only best contractors that we can get on there to avoid these kinds of, I mean, I had them when I was in Southbridge. I used to work in the town of Southbridge for 14 years. There were problems in some of their building projects. They're endemic. But this new CM at risk 149A, chapter 149A, gives us much more control over the process of who we select to build this building. And we're going to exert that control. We'll be in Boston at DCAM reviewing files before anybody is selected to build this building.
Excellent.
Could I just add something about, you mentioned specifically the punch listing. I think that's important.
Can you just use the microphone, because nobody else can hear you except the people in this room, and they might actually want to hear what you have to say.
Thank
A lot
you.
of people listening.
I just wanted to address the point about punch listing. I can tell you an experience not too far away when we were doing the Blackstone Millville Middle School. As part of all specifications, before the architect does a punch list, the contractor has to do his punch list and also a list of incomplete work. Give it to the architect, then the architect does the punch list. At Blackstone Millville, we got a list of 40 items on the punch list from the contractor. And then we went out and made our list. We had 4,000 items. It caused a problem with the building committee. They thought we were being too picky, and until we walked into a room with the building committee and said, okay, here's what the general contractor said is wrong, and here's what we say is wrong. We really believe in being very rigorous in the process of punch listing and holding money, being very careful about how much you pay. So I wanted to give you a little bit of comfort that we have developed over the years a very stringent and rigorous punch listing policy that has protected the interests of the owner.
And Madam Chairman, when we started this process, MSBA, we had 3 architects that we interviewed with the board. And we had told all of our architects prior to getting to Boston, when they went through the RFQ situation, that we weren't looking for bells and whistles. We're not changing the gymnasium. We're not looking for auditoriums. Those things are outside the scope. We had ranked the architects 1, 2, and 3. KBA was not the first-ranked architect before the interviews. The first-ranked architect came in and showed us a beautiful foyer, okay, open space, and the kids can gather there. And we voted them out of that because we're not about adding frills. We're here about adding educational spaces, and we think KBA is doing an excellent job of that, and that's why whatever we put into this building will be for education and for renovation.
Thank you. Selectman Sad?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for coming in and giving us this wonderful presentation. It kind of shed some light on what the needs are, because the average person has no understanding of what's going on up there at Bay Path. I think the biggest problem you're going to have with this is marketing it to the 10 towns. The financial situation of not only the communities, but the families that pay the bills, they're hurting, and hurting bad. I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of people in the community, and I bounced this off of them. What do you think about Bay Path spending all this money to renovate and expand? And I got to be honest with you, the majority of the people I talked to were opposed to it. These are people, granted, that are unemployed, trying to keep their mortgages, keep their children fed. It's tough. A lot of families are finding it tough. We have a foreclosure rate in this area that is just out of sight. We see it right here in the town of Oxford. It's not easy. And people don't understand what's going on unless they have the opportunity to know what's happening. And they don't. Their main care right now is taking care of their families and paying their bills so they don't get buried. Am I in favor of this project? Absolutely. I'm 100%, I want you to know that, I'm 100% in favor of it. When we went and built the new high school, when we did the renovations for our schools, I supported it right from day one. Education is a needed thing in the community. And I want you to know that my feelings towards Bay Path is the same. You are part of Oxford's community. Bay Path is an important part of the community. There are people that I know that have graduated from Bay Path and started their own businesses, work for larger companies, and are able to support their families in a manner in which we would like to see our children move forward. So it is something that's needed in the community, and I support it 100%. But I think that it's incumbent upon you and anybody you can get to help you market it before town meeting, because this will fail if one town says they don't want it, it's over. It's back to square one. So that's going to be your biggest hurdle. But you do have my support. Good luck to you.
There is one more option. If we get voted out by just one town, we can go to district-wide vote. in the fall, which we would be responsible for paying for. But that is an option. We don't look to do that. We hope we can get all towns to support this. We understand the financial burden. That's why we've done everything possible to break the numbers down so people could understand how is it, they could actually do the math and figure out what's it going to cost me as a taxpayer. And it could be hard on some and not on others. We understand that. And again, like Mr. Lamache said, there is no good time to come. And what the difference between today and 2002 is the escalation of the prices of copper and steel and those things. So if we come back in 5 years, the building's in worse shape, and it's going to cost even more than this to do. It snowballs.
Pay now or pay more later.
Right.
That's the bottom
That's
line.
Right. But we understand where people are coming from, absolutely.
I just had a couple questions. There was a comment made, I think it was Selectman Lamountain. He mentioned separate bonds. There are going to be 10 separate bonds for this.
No.
You'd alluded to 2 bonds.
Firstly, under the state law, the bonds will be issued in the name of Bay Path.
Okay, and just on that point,
Yeah.
because another question I had, the bond rating, which community would the bond rating be based on? Because let's face it, some towns have better bond ratings than others. Is it an average of all 10? How does that work?
It will be Bay Path's bond rating, which at this point, since we haven't issued long-term debt since the inception of the school, we don't have a long-term bond rating as of yet. However, in determining what Bay Path's bond rating, it will be a compilation of the 10 towns.
Okay.
They'll take a look at all of the financials, but not individually saying, Oxford is a double A, and therefore, because they represent 12%, we'll give 12% weight. No, it's a 10-town region. What are the demographics in that complete 10-town region, the financial situation? Dave Eisenthal, who I mentioned before, feels we'll come in at a double A at this point. He feels that we'll get a double A rating from S&P.
Okay, and it would, I asked because obviously the bond rating could have, when you're looking at a project this size and the cost, a substantial impact on what the communities would pay. And so, with Bay Path not having a long-term bond rating, I just asked the question because perhaps, if there's a way to work with the state where you maybe pigeonhole the best 3 or 4 communities with the best bond rating, I don't know. You're talking a lot of money.
Right. Unfortunately, municipal finance law won't allow that. It would be, we'll have to go out, just as the town does, get their bond rating and get it renewed. You're active in the bond market, obviously, so you're doing that more often. But we'll go out, we'll put out our official statement, and we'll have it evaluated by Moody's and S&P. And again, it'll be more of a regional approach to what do the region's finances look like. They will obviously look at the underlying credit of the towns, and the bigger towns will play a bigger role, okay? But we do have the same options as any municipality in terms of if bond insurance were required. We have the state aid intercept law that continues to be in play just for us, just as it is for any municipality. So Dave Eisenthal is confident, and his rates and the breakdown on the cost per average single-family home takes into account what he feels our rating will be and the subsequent rates on the bonds that will come of that. But there is no provision for us to sort of say, well, we're going to just look at these 3 or 4 towns. We will be rated as an independent entity.
For good, bad, and otherwise.
Yeah, but I think it won't be as bad as maybe some people think. Again, I think we'll be at a double A rating. Because don't forget, our own finances will play a big part. And although they didn't look so hot at the turn of the century, they're in much better shape now. We've been conservative. We maintain, to the extent possible under the law, good fund balances and so forth, and with an eye to the fact that we know we have this project coming up.
And when you say that there would be 2 bonds, you said the first you were anticipating if this project moves forward, fiscal year 2013, and then again in 2015.
You'll find out
Yeah,
from
we're
your
going to have to,
council
you mean at the town meeting itself?
that each
You're
town
not-
meeting needs a 2/3 vote?
Let's ask the question. I don't have that
Okay,
answer.
and then we have our local election 1 day short of 2 weeks later in May. And for there to be a debt exclusion, each town has to vote a debt exclusion question.
In
If they go
reality,
that
no, but what's going to happen is
If they,
Most of
unless they want
to keep it in the levy.
to keep it within the levy limit.
And there are a couple of towns that are very small that may want to do that in terms of the impact. But I'm expecting 8 out of 10 towns at a minimum to do that. And we're working with Palmer and Dodge to draft the language for that vote. And my commitment to you is that as soon as we can get that, I'm hoping within a couple of weeks, both of those votes, in terms of the town meeting and in terms of the 2.5 debt exclusion, we'll get those to you. And then, of course, if you have questions or reactions, we'll work with Palmer and Dodge on those.
And then finally, this is, this type of construction project is typically a 20-year borrowing.
30.
You can do 30 years?
The law has been changed recently. Any school project can go 30 years like this.
Okay. All right, so that'll reduce the annual impact on the 3.3 million. I usually figure 10% a year for 20 years.
Yeah, these numbers of
A little less.
12.9 and 39.64 reflect a 30-year borrowing.
I want to know what the annual cost to Oxford is.
Right, I'll get you there.
Okay.
We have the debt schedule will come out to you, and then it'll show you.
And you've already have a plan to phase it in, so you probably figure you want to do maybe 17 million 1 year, and then another 10 million 2 years later. So
You're right, yeah.
something like that.
We'll have that for you.
Okay.
But this will not require two separate, I mean, once the project is approved,
It's one vote, absolutely, I
even though we'll
understand
have
that.
two bonds over time.
Yeah, but that'll help us
Yeah.
you know, I have to understand
I'll
this
get you
so I
the debt
can answer
schedules.
questions,
I'll
okay?
get you the debt schedules from
Thank you,
David.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in again.
Thank you
and
very
Thank you for
much.
the presentation.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
We appreciate your time.
Good luck.
You want to leave these here?
Sure.
No, we'll leave these.
We'll do that.
Yeah, pretty good, huh? We're going all the way to flagpole.
No, I just don't want to leave my hat. It's my favorite.
That's a good thing. That's a
What's
good
that,
thing.
say Giants?
I don't mean, it's not British Petroleum. in case you're
Oh,
wondering.
BP, okay, BP.
It's the wrong color.
Good night.
Thank you.
They got their work cut out. Oh, my God.
Okay. We are going to move on now to the next agenda item. We do have I see we have a number of the members of the school committee here and finance committee. If Chairman Ennis and I see Superintendent Himmelberger is here as well, I don't know who wants to come forward. Those seats are pretty warmed up at this point.
That they are.
Lots of money, talking lots of money tonight. Good evening.
Good evening.
Take care. Thank you, Dr. Himm.
Thank you for having us in, and I will begin the meeting by saying we're not here for any money right now. That will be another few weeks. So one of the reasons that we asked that we have this meeting this evening is we're going to ask if you will partnership with the school committee in a couple of initiatives that we have. And one of them is, I think you all know that the Chapter 70 funding that is currently being used by the state of Massachusetts is an antiquated formula from 1983. We have sent a letter to all of our state reps and our state senator, actually be going out tomorrow, asking them for movement on the changes that are necessary for this Chapter 70 funding. My hope would be that it would take some of the pressure off of taxpayers that, as tonight, have been asked to give more. I think that once we find that we have a change in the formula, we will see that there'll be some increases, we hope, in our Chapter 70 receiving of the funds. So tonight is one of those nights when partnership comes into call. I think it's something that the community, I think, expects from different boards to work together. I know that it would be a very good uniting of the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and our finance committee, that we can work together in that way. That is my first request. Yes, it's money related, but I'm not looking for any town money. So, one of the other things that I wanted to discuss also this evening is, finally, our superintendent and his staff have a home. And it's, I don't know if anyone has been in, I went today, and I have to say it's very impressive that finally they have now offices that are fully functional. There is no issue of any mold or anything like that. It's a brand-new renovation of the top floor of the community center, and I think that you really have helped us out in that case. It is an office space that we should be very, very proud of, I think, to show that we have a school department that is operating in a facility that it deserves. So that there is very good. Again, another partnership that we took along with the community, and we thank them all. Our school choice numbers have increased, which means we have students that want to come into Oxford High School. Some of the reasons that they're coming in is ROTC. We know that being a championship NJROTC team is very interesting for younger students. They want to see what that's all about. So that there in itself, saying that there are students coming in and taking seats that are available, I think bodes very well for this community. I don't think we've heard that in a long time. And I know that even though that we have very fixed funding right now, we do toe the line on our budget. I think that speaks highly for the superintendent and his staff, and also for the school committee to make sure that we toe the line. So that's good news too, that we have finally see some of that activity. As you know, Mr. Peterson is not seeking re-election, so we are losing our senior member, and we're kind of losing our history for some of the work, and Mrs. Coonan also has announced that she will not be seeking re-election. So in saying that, I speak for myself, I guess, on this. I will miss them both. I always like to go toe-to-toe with Mr. Peterson. That was one of the highlights sometimes of our meetings. But, you know, the things of that, we never lost sight. When it came down to it, we were doing what we could do for the kids. And Mrs. Coonan, of course, you know, she was very level, very level-headed. She'd have to kick me now and then, and I knew what that meant when I felt that kick under the table. But she added a lot behind the scenes, I think, more than in front of the camera, of her expertise in budget and some of her. She had some very good and great ideas. So I'm going to miss them both. And having Mrs. Ravelli, Mr. Anderson, and myself at the table now, we look forward to 2 new members. So that is something, again, a little bit more change, so coming our way. This week at all of our schools, Governor Patrick has deemed tomorrow No Name Calling Day in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's legislation he put forth, I think, last year. Was it last year?
Council.
Okay.
Good thing we're meeting tonight.
I was just thinking the same thing.
We'll get 3.5 more hours.
Right. Go to town till midnight.
Can we change the clocks back?
You had me on the agenda first. We're going to begin these events tomorrow. It'll be district-wide in all of our buildings. Tomorrow, the students are invited to wear black, and the reason that they would wear black is to black out name-calling. It is an event that we have taken a couple steps further, and we're going to make it a 3-day event. And the concluding event, I hope you all got your invitations for Friday. Friday, 1 o'clock, at the Oxford High School, the sophomore varsity players are going to be putting on a play for the entire high school. These are sophomores, we're doing all the acting, and I believe they even wrote the play. We have State Rep Frost is going to attend, State Rep Fatman and Durant. Chief Hassett is going to be there, so the invitation is open to you to see a production. I think it's about 30 minutes or so. And I think that what we're hoping for is the kids that don't necessarily get the message will get it on Friday. And maybe they'll get it this week as the events go on. So feel free, please, to attend with us. We're going to have a small reception at 12:30, and we'd like you to be there. So that is basically why we came in tonight. We wanted to give you some of the highlights, not always ask for money. I think meetings like this are important so that you can understand where we're coming from and how hard we are working too, because as we all understand, education is the root of everything. And it is the root of our professional lives, our family lives. It's the root where we start our children, where they start their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. That is where everything begins. And we want to do the best we can for our community. We may not always see eye to eye when it comes to the money, and we may not always see eye to eye on some of the aspects that go on in our buildings, but I think it's important that our community knows that we strongly have a strong partnership of communication, and I think that is something that I think we should toot our horn for, because it's important. Those factions are very, very important. I will also share some news. It is not yet, the ink is not dry, but we have extended our superintendent's contract, and we came to a tentative agreement this afternoon, he and I, with the rest of the committee. So we look forward to cultivating a relationship that is moving in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do. He knows it, we know it, and we're going to continue to move forward with some of those. We need to make progress. And some of the timelines are stringent, and we understand that. We're just going to continue on moving forward. So those are some of the good things that are happening over at our schools, and we always invite all of you in. Mr. LaMarche and I, along with our business manager, our superintendent, Mr. Zaneski, we're on the building committee for the project at Oxford Middle School. And I have to agree with the gentlemen, all of them that just spoke. When the SBA was in place, it was not a well thought out plan for any type of construction. We saw what happened in this community. I think you're going to see a completely different outcome with MSBA at the helm. As Mr. LaMarche can attest, they have a very stringent checklist. They hold our hands the whole process through. There are a lot of factors that must be in place before you even consider starting a project like this. We are now in the position of hiring the owner's project manager, and we're hoping to start interviews on Friday. So it is a completely different scenario happening than if it was with SBA. So I think with Bay Path, they're very fortunate that they have MSBA at the helm to also, hold their hand and move that project forward. I think they're very lucky to have that. So, and I support that also, that measure that they brought forth today. And that's what I have for you.
Okay, well, I have to say, I attended the State of the State address last evening, and it's very refreshing to hear you come in here and give a State of the School address and not ask for any money, unlike what happened last night.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
It's not tonight, so I'm gonna enjoy it while we can. Selectman LaMarche.
Well, just on that point, if I may, Brenda, and for the general public too, it might be a good thing. When you hear the word project manager, when I first heard that word in this process, I was thinking a person. And that's not what the MSBA is doing. When we're in the process, like Brenda said, we're going to be interviewing on Friday, hopefully. We have 3 companies that it's their entire companies. They have engineers, they have consultants, they have designers, they got the architects, plus they have the overall boss, the manager of the whole business. That's all involved in this, and we'll all be in the case of our school renovations, at our schools, checking things out and involved in that. So it is quite a detailed process that BPATH is going to get into, hopefully, and as we are. So, people should realize you're not just talking about one person and what happens if that person's gone. I mean, you're talking an entire company. And these are not companies that just came along 2-3 years ago. These are reputable companies. The ones we're looking at are 20, 25 years,
Established, yeah.
well established. These people have been doing this stuff for 15, 20, 25 years. So it is quite a process that I think will protect the town very well. And so I just wanted to add that, if I may. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else has anything. Superintendent.
I just wanted to add to Mrs. Ennis's comments regarding the new space for the central office, and I wanted to thank the town manager. He probably saw more of me than he cared to over the last couple of months of the year. But Mr. Zaneski, Mr. Dones, and all of our inspectors and fire chief, instrumental in getting us in there into a very safe and secure space. And I look forward to working with everybody to leverage that building into as a building that can last and generate revenue for the town. And I think that having us on the top floor will help to increase the viability of that building. And I look forward to working with the town manager as well as the board to make sure that we do leverage that building, because it's a terrific building that will last the town for many years to come. So thank you again.
Thank you. I just want to say, Ms. Coonan isn't here, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit more of Mr. Peterson before he steps down. I just want to publicly say thank you to you. How many years?
21.
Just 21. Wow. 21 years on the school committee, and you will...
It's a kid.
You're an institution on the school committee, Mr. Peterson, and you're going to be missed, Mark, for everything that you know, your knowledge, your heart and soul. You've always put it into that position. You know, unlike some people, and, I don't begrudge anybody, but you always put your money where your mouth is. Your kids, I went to school with both your daughters. You sent your kids to the public school, and not everybody who's invested in public school does that. And I think it shows that you were a vested stockholder in the Oxford public school system throughout your life, and you thought it was good enough, and you put your heart and soul into it, and you sent your kids there. And I think it speaks volumes about your commitment to the school system and to the town. And I don't know if you want to say anything at this point. I certainly would.
No, I'll just walk quietly, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and I just want you to know that the door is always open for you to come in. I think communicating is the number one thing that we should do, because there are times when we don't agree, and sometimes you have to ask for more, and sometimes we say no, and sometimes we do the best that we can. But I think it always helps to be able to communicate on a level, and it hasn't always been the case. And I think when we can do that professionally, that everybody benefits. So I appreciate you coming in, and as I said, whenever you want to come in and get on the agenda, you're always welcome.
I think we'll be back in
Not so
February.
fast, no.
Right.
Couple weeks, right?
next meeting. No.
Whenever you say.
But we'll see you, though. I know we have our budget
We just-
presentation
yeah.
coming up.
And we just started ours, so we'll be back. You'll hear from us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Brenda.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Board members, managers report for January 24th, 2012. Meeting minutes. Request the board vote to approve meeting minutes of November 1, 2011.
I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded. Call for the vote?
Yes.
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 Yes, 5 in the affirmative.
I paused because I was trying to remember what year we're in now. It's still early in 12, so that's correct. Department of Agricultural Resources, DAR notification timetable. You'll recall that at your last meeting, that's on January 10th, you requested more time before making a decision on shortening the notification period from 120 days to 60 days that the state must notify a city or town prior to the purchase of one or more acres of real property. By reducing the notification period to 60 days, it will allow the Department of Agriculture to proceed in their acquisition of property on Brown Road and Dana Road. Again, that's map 27, parcels A01 and A02.01, which is now or formerly owned by the Donovans. If the town agrees to shorten the notification period, it will permit DAR to proceed with that acquisition in a timely manner. The town will not owe any money on this. So there's no share for the town, which is typically the case in these agricultural protection deals. And the taxes will not be affected due to the fact that the property is already classified as chapter land. So it'll simply be an agricultural protection that, as I understand how these things work, the state buys the development rights and it'll remain agriculture. So, having said all that, pleasure of the board to accept the reduction in the notification timetable from 120 days to 60 days, and to sign the certificate of notification waiver, which is found in the to-be-signed folder. Pleasure of the board.
I'd entertain any motions.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Selectman Lamountain?
Jen, when we had this come before us 2 weeks ago, I did have a lot of questions. And it was actually, I don't know if I want to say refreshing, but in the letter that we received from DOR on this, or DAR, concerning the reason why they wanted to go from the 120 to the 60, it almost sounded like somebody said, I forgot, my bad. And, it was human, right? It was human. And it was human error. And there is no cost to the taxpayer. And we're not having to contribute, as we were asked to with the Whittier Farms, to open space, with our dollars. So, having said that, I moved it when you asked, because it's not a bad thing at all. That's it.
Okay, I just want to go on record saying I won't be voting to reduce the notice period. I think it's very appropriate to point out that the Mass Department of Revenue hasn't done anything to reduce our waiting time for our tax classification approval, and I don't really see the state ever move very fast for the cities and towns when they need things done, so I will be voting no, because I don't see really the need to reduce the notice period, and I don't want to start a precedent here where the state thinks that they can ask us to do that on maybe in the future more important matters. Call for the vote?
Yes.
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 No.
Very good. Under the heading of Post-Employment Benefits, OPEB, request the board vote to schedule a meeting of the trustees of the OPEB agreement for Monday, March 5, 2012, at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall. Pleasure of the board.
I'd entertain a motion to schedule the meeting for March 5th, 2012 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Being none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 We're finally moving ahead with permanent intermittent police officers. Request the board vote to allow Chairman Casey to sign the roster of the recently appointed permanent intermittent police officers. We've just been notified that the town is responsible to create this roster and forward it to civil service, which in the future will be used to hire full-time police officers if and when needed. Pleasure of the board to allow the chairman to sign the roster.
I'd entertain a motion from Selectman Lamarche for me to sign the roster.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. There being none, I'll call for the vote.
Abstain.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes, 3 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions.
All right, presidential primary, notice of registration and signing of the warrant. The presidential primary in Massachusetts will be on Tuesday, March 6th, 2012, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And with that said, we've been notified by Town Clerk Lori Kelly that the last day and hour to register to vote before the presidential primary will be Wednesday, February 15th, 2012. The town clerk's office will remain open on that day. That's a Wednesday. The town clerk's office will remain open on that day from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. to accommodate anyone wishing to register. One may register on any other day during regular business hours, which are 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. A mail-in voter registration form may be mailed to the office of the town clerk at 325 Main Street in lieu of appearing in person. Any voter whose name or address has changed during the year is advised to appear before the town clerk or the registrars of voters to have this information changed on the voting list. And then request the board vote to sign the presidential primary warrant. That has to be posted by February 28th. Pleasure of the board.
I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, discussion. Being none, I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 There's a lot of information there. I just want to, and because there's a lot of presidential primary activity going on right now, just to reiterate, in Massachusetts, the presidential primary is March 6th. It's a Tuesday, March 6th. And you have until February 15th to register. Senator Moore, I have to be specific nowadays. Senator Richard T. Moore, coffee and conversation in office hours. Senator Richard T. Moore will be at Carl's Oxford Diner, 291 Main Street on January 30th from 8 to 9:30 a.m. Anyone wishing to join the senator may do so for a friendly conversation and enjoy a complimentary coffee and pastry. We have also been notified that Senator Moore will hold informal office hours at the Senior Center, which is located directly behind the Town Hall, on Monday, January 30th, from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. to meet individually with any citizen who needs assistance with matters involving the state government. No appointment is necessary, and residents are met on a first-come, first-served basis. And finally, other reminders. 1, Representative Peter Durant will also be holding informal office hours for any citizen wishing to discuss any concerns they may have. Mr. Durant will be at the Town Hall, which is 325 Main Street, on Tuesday, January 31st, from 9 to 10 a.m. in the first-floor conference room. No appointment is necessary. That ends the manager's report for January 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Lamountain.
All set.
Thank you, Selectman Lamarche.
I'm all set tonight also.
Very good, Selectman Bose.
I want to thank Joe. All this talk about this, the community center. How are we doing with the school administration building, with the plans of raising that building, the old building?
We're aware of that. They're moving everything out that can be salvaged and reused. I have to get prices, because if we have funds available, we might put it on the warrant, or include it on the warrant. I'll probably include an article, and the actual use of the article will depend on the availability of funds, but we'll be looking at.
So you don't have any prices for?
Not yet, no.
Thank you, Selectman Sad.
I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. I just had one quick item, and I spoke to the town manager about it very briefly when we were
Sorry.
in Dudley making a presentation with respect to the grant that we received from the state, and that is the equipment in this room. And I'd just like to ask the manager to follow up on that. I mean, the quality of the equipment in this room compared to some other local communities is subpar. And that means how it comes across at home, the volume, the mics, everything. And we really should look into fixing it so people can watch the broadcast, because we're not the only ones up here. The planning board uses this room, the ZBA uses this room, other public and civic groups use this room, and, given everything else that we do in town and we do it right, and to ask the town manager to look into improving this system, whether we have to take or request money from the organizations that receive the funds annually from charter, however we have to do it. And I know that we have some of our tech people here this evening, maybe they can help out, but it's really something that needs to be done. People have been complaining about this for years. I mean, I want to say 5 to 10 years. And we haven't had the system in place very long. I remember when it came in my first term in 1998. It was something that I'd pushed for, and I feel that I have a duty to push forward again that we improve it, Mr. Manager, and I know that we've talked about that. So can you get back to us with a status and say 30 days? I know you have a lot on your plate, but can you get back to us with something concrete?
I will do that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you.